with news from across the Federation, spanning the region and covering the globe. This is the KyssFM SKN News Now Evening Edition, your one true source for news. And now your presenter.
Good evening, I'm Kenny James. Today is Wednesday, 7th March 2018. This is the SKN News Now Evening Edition. In the headlines tonight, nationally, protesters demand truth from unity government regarding the sale of lands at La Valley. Internationally, the U.S.'s Rex Tillerson is on his first African nations tour. And in sports, a Winter Paralympics competitor shares how a shark attack changed his career. We have the details of these stories, the weather and Carib update all ahead in the SKN News Now Evening Edition. Nationally, a number of concerned citizens of St. Kitts and Nevis took to the streets on Tuesday in protest against the unity government, demanding the truth regarding lands at La Valley Greens, Sandy Point. Armed with signs expressing their concerns, the picketers gathered on Church Street, Bastia, demonstrating in front of government headquarters, which houses the offices of the Prime Minister and several other ministers of government. The upset was created over the government's recent sale of over 400 acres of land at La Valley Greens. It is also now being recalled that prior to the 2015 general elections, Dr. Timothy Harris and his colleagues alleged that the La Valley lands were already blindly sold off by the Labour-led government. The sitting government is now being accused of spreading this political mistruth in order to win office. SKN News Now spoke to one of the protesters.
Well, I'm here today because of a lot of lies by this government. I mean, Placard said it all. Sean Richards had people signing a petition concerning the land down at the valley. Now we find out the same land, what they said Douglas was giving away, the patrimony, has now been sold, or some hotel or something going to be going there. I thought they would take the same land and hand it to the people of Sandy Point, as he tell the people before the election that Douglas is giving away the patrimony. So it means then you're supposed to take the land, now you're getting power, and distribute it to the people of Sandy Point. I mean, the lies, when is it going to finish? When is it going to end? I mean, how can we trust these guys? Look at Lindsey Grant at the Marriott. Cannot be trusted. Yeah. The most corrupt government I ever seen. What I would like to say to them, to this government and the dictator, Timothy Harris, come clean to the people of St. Kitts. We deserve better. We deserve better. And you have lied to the people of this country all along the line. You never care about the country. All they care about is yourself and getting in power to enrich you and your family.
Meanwhile, the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party will join the international community in observing International Women's Day tomorrow. To commemorate the day, the party will host an award ceremony and reception where 8 women from each constituency around St. Kitts will be honored and awarded for their contribution to society. The event is set to take place tomorrow evening at Galaxy on Port Zante. Earlier today, Honorable Marcella Liebert, St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party chairperson, reaffirmed that her organization is committed to the safety and advancement of women in St. Kitts and Nevis. Ms. Liebert herself is distinguished in marking International Women's Day, where gender parity is the focus, as she is the lone elected female member of the St. Kitts and Nevis National Assembly.
That the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party will make an even greater investment in our women, because we realize that that is the only way that the country will be able to progress wholesomely. And so we will invest more in our women. We will press for progress in women's safety. We will press for progress in women's leadership. We will press for progress in closing the wage gap between men and women, and we'll press for progress in the empowerment of our girls and women. So I want you to join us to reverse this period of attack on our women and our families. Happy International Women's Day tomorrow when it comes.
The Capistia Health and Wellness Club had its first mobilization activity of the year in the form of a monthly health walk on Saturday, 3rd March, since its break over the Christmas and New Year holiday. Scores of club members and health enthusiasts braved the crisp early morning breeze to participate in a walk from the Sir Robert Llewellyn National Heroes Memorial Park at the eastern end of St. Paul's Village, Capistia, to the Saddlers Constituency Office of Dr. Denzil Douglas, the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party Parliamentarian Representative for number 6. After a period of fellowship and reflection during prayers, participants shared in a healthy breakfast with villagers and well-wishers. They raised the challenges of the past year which affected them, including the high cost of living, the government's discrimination against and victimization of the residents of the Capistia region, the neglect of their communities by National Housing Corporation, and the government's neglect in assisting with repairs to homes damaged during Hurricanes Irma and Maria, despite the fact that hundreds of thousands of dollars have been collected by the Hurricane Fund, and the refusal of the government to set up a temporary police station in the area since the closure of the St. Paul's police station for repairs over a year ago. Deep feelings of shock, sadness, and regret regarding the recent spate of violent homicides since the start of the year. Concern was also expressed for the family of 22-year-old Preston Joel Fleming of Newton Ground Village, Capistia, who has been missing since Tuesday, 27 February. The Capistia Health and Wellness Club is committed to the safety and advancement of their community. 14 fire officers are participating in a week-long course in road traffic collision training. The course, which began on Monday with a soft opening, concludes this Friday. Over the course of the training, which takes place at the police training complex, the fire officers will engage in theoretical and practical training sessions in personal safety, equipment, familiarization and care, team approach, stability, glass management, supplementary restraint systems, vehicle hazards and risk, as well as immobilization and extrication on Thursday. The participants will be given a written evaluation and an extrication exercise, and then on Friday the fire officers will take part in a simulation exercise. Fire Sub-Officer and Course Instructor Daniel Archibald said that the St. Kitts Nevis and Rescue Services said the training is intended to enhance the skills of its officers in order to improve their ability to rescue victims involved in traffic collisions. He also remarked that it is timely as both the number of vehicles on the road has increased, which has led to an inevitable increase in vehicular accidents. In light of this, Officer Archibald said the fire and rescue services have made it a priority to ensure that their first responders are prepared. In so doing, the course is designed to equip 14 participants with the modern techniques and the knowledge required to effectively extricate casualties from motor vehicle accidents. The other instructors are Fire Substation Officer Timothy Martin, who Fire Sub-Officer Archibald explained is a regional instructor, and Fire Officer Desmond Delashley. Both facilitators of the training have received qualifications from the Fire Services College in the United Kingdom, where in 2015 they attained qualifications in firefighter development core skills, including ladder operations, knots, pumps, and hazardous materials. Firefighting development program that refers to structural firefighting procedures and techniques, road traffic collisions, casualty care, and vehicle extrication. Stay with us. SKN News Now continues in just a moment with today's top international developments. Internationally, U.S. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson is heading to Africa for his first official trip to the continent. Before leaving, he announced $533 million in humanitarian assistance for several countries affected by conflict and drought. We hear the details in this report.
Mr. Rex Tillerson.
Over 8 days, the U.S. Secretary of State will visit the capitals of Ethiopia, Djibouti, Kenya, Chad, and Nigeria. Rex Tillerson says the U.S. wants to show its commitment to African development.
This administration seeks to deepen our partnership with Africa. with an aim of making African countries more resilient and more self-sufficient.
The trip was first announced in January, shortly after Donald Trump allegedly used a profanity to describe African countries. Other than that sentiment, which the president denies having expressed, this is one of the few on-the-record comments the president has made about the continent.
I have so many friends going to your countries trying to get rich.
It is not clear that President Trump has ever been to Africa, that he knows very much about the continent at all. And nor does he appear particularly interested in learning, which is the great irony, because for an administration such as his, which is trying to grow economic relationships around the world as a means of improving American businesses, there is enormous opportunity.
At a State Department background briefing about Tillerson's trip, officials, though, were keen to emphasize the U.S. sees more in Africa than U.S. corporate profits and military bases. In fact, U.S. officials criticized China and Russia for exploiting the resources of African countries without giving back to the African people. But while China has poured money into the development of African infrastructure and trade, the U.S. under President Obama massively expanded the U.S.'s military and CIA footprint throughout the continent. And it is notable that while key African vacancies remain in the Trump State Department, for example, an assistant secretary to coordinate diplomatic policy, the White House has managed to appoint a former CIA official to be its senior director for Africa. That the 5 countries of 54 chosen for Tillerson's trip are key to the U.S.'s military strategy in the region suggests here at least there will be continuity with President Obama's African policies.
Thank you for your very kind attention.
The State Department says Tillerson's trip will be the first of many to Africa, but there is a suspicion that the Trump administration doesn't intend fully to engage with the continent diplomatically, and there's a debate as to whether that's necessarily a bad thing for African nations.
Sunday's election in Italy has seen the anti-immigrant party known as the League, formerly known as the Northern League, become a dominant force in Italian politics. Their leader, Matteo Salvini, says he's the only possible candidate for prime minister. There are fears increasingly xenophobic rhetoric from politicians is feeding into attacks on foreigners. Nadim Baba reports.
A La Lega rally in the run-up to Sunday's election. Formerly the Northern League, it's grown from a northern separatist movement to a nationwide populist party under Matteo Salvini. And there's a familiar slogan with a clear subtext for the hundreds of thousands of migrants and refugees who've made Italy their home.
Those who choose the League choose something clear. Italians first, Italians first.
And it's that same slogan you can see on the banners of the extreme right, like at this gathering in Rome of the Casa Pound movement. They're a small party and failed to win seats in Parliament. But their opponents, such as these counter-protesters, say electoral success is not their only purpose.
Some organisations are hiding, disguising themselves, speaking about democracy but using words of hatred, discrimination and racism, and carrying out aggressions and stabbings.
One attack last month hit the headlines. A gunman drove around shooting at African migrants in the central city of Macerata, wounding 6 of them. When police arrested suspect Luca Traini, he had the Italian flag draped over his shoulders. But inside his home, they found Nazi material. People who know him say Traini was a League Party candidate in local elections before turning to the neo-fascist group Forza Nuova, as well as Casa Pound. Here in the capital, the Bangladeshi community is one group that's been targeted. More than 70 Bangladeshis, many of them street vendors, have been beaten up in the last few years, a sort of initiation rite for young fascist activists. This Rome-based journalist says the anti-immigrant language that dominated much of the election campaign is having a knock-on effect.
But they are using immigration, and the result is that extreme right parties, not just these 2 parties, also Nazi skin, they are creating small groups to target immigrants.
Parties like La Lega and their electoral allies, the Brothers of Italy, deny links to neo-fascist groups and have spoken out against physical attacks on foreigners. But their detractors say they're knowingly creating hatred with dangerous consequences.
There's a growing climate of fear in the country. and often immigrants don't report violent incidents because they might not have residence papers, or because they're scared that speaking out might have worse consequences.
Matteo Salvini and his party are on the rise and expanding their support base. But as attitudes harden against immigrants, some fear that's already making life dangerous for minority communities here.
Still to come this evening, sport, the weather, and Carib update. In sports, in October 2014, Australian Sean Pollard was attacked by two great sharks while out surfing. The then 23-year-old lost his left arm and right hand in the incident. Within a year, Pollard had tried snowboarding for the first time, and now he's getting ready to represent his country at the Winter Paralympics. He's been sharing how he turned to snowboarding after losing limbs needed for surfing.
I'm Sean Pollard. I'm a professional athlete from Bunbury, Western Australia. A little over 3 years ago, I lost my left arm and my right hand in a shark attack. Since then, I haven't been able to surf the waves which I wanted to, so I turned to snowboarding and gave that a go. Definitely snowboarding has kind of filled that hole that surfing left. I live probably almost 4,000 k's from the nearest ski resort. Coming from Bunbury, there's no snow anywhere near, so a lot of my training I have to do down the local skate park, so I'll just go down there and cut laps. I compete in the sports of bank slalom and snowboard cross on the World Cup circuit, and it's pretty much first to the bottom of the hill wins. If you both stack it, whoever gets up quicker and gets across the line wins, but yeah, if you stack it and the other guy doesn't fall off, then usually they're going to take the win.
Got Timmy for you, Luke.
Losing an arm and a hand, a lot of my training has to do with core strength. And so I'm down the gym a lot, strengthening that core, and I kind of get driven to push myself, knowing that, you know, life's so short and you got to make the best of it while you can. My day-to-day life, I get by using the split hook prosthetic. It took a while to learn. It took me a good couple of weeks to learn how to butter toast, and even just getting dressed, it took a while to get used to that. But 3 years on, I've got everything figured out. When it's race day, I usually try to keep a relaxed vibe. But then around the contest, it's chilled. But as soon as you're in the start gate, I kind of switch to race mode, and it's game on. It never really crossed my mind representing my country when I was younger, and kind of since my shark attack, I've enjoyed being challenged, and it's been a big challenge to try and get to that top level. My family's really excited. It's rewarding for them and myself to see that I've got this amazing opportunity that I have now. Win, lose or draw, I'm just going to be happy to represent Australia on the big stage. The biggest thing I've learnt through my experience is you never know how things are going to turn out, so you have to just have a go at the big challenges and you'll be surprised at what you can actually achieve.
And now we take a look at today's weather forecast. Seas are gradually subsiding across the area. However, a high surf warning remains in effect. Meanwhile, despite available moisture, a surface to low level high pressure system will keep shore activity to a minimum. Seas are slight to moderate with mainly long period swells of 2.1 to 3 meters or 7 to 10 feet, occasionally reaching 4 meters or 13 feet. A high surf warning remains in effect as conditions remain especially life-threatening near shore, especially on the north and east-facing beaches. Tonight will be mostly clear. Winds are east-northeast at 9 to 17 miles per hour. Sea level pressure is at 1017.9 millibars or 30.06 parts of an inch. Sunrise tomorrow will be at 6:24 a.m. That ends tonight's edition of the SKN News Now. Now for a recap of our top stories. Nationally, protesters demand truth from unity government regarding the sale of lands at La Valley. Internationally, the US's Rex Tillerson is on his first African nations tour. And in sports, a Winter Paralympics competitor shares how a shark attack changed his career. Stay tuned. Up next, Carib Update.